Admiral Velkar studied the tactical display with the satisfaction of a predator who had already tasted the kill. 12,000 vessels stretched across the black canvas of the display, arranged in perfect offensive formation. 6 species, 300 years of compact military doctrine, enough firepower to reduce star system to glowing rubble, and they were aimed at Earth. Final readiness. Report, Velkar said, his mandibles clicking in rhythm with his words. Rathan Dominion had commanded this expedition, and he would be the one to deliver humanity's surrender to the Council. History would remember his name. Fleet Commander Nath of the VTH Collective appeared on the secondary display, his membranous wings folded tight against anxiety. Admiral, long range sensors have detected something. A single vessel on the edge of the system. Human configuration. Velkar's neck ridges pulsed with amusement. One ship, they appear to be holding position along our projected approach. No weapons hot, no active targeting systems, but they are watching. The Admiral turned to his command staff. Laughter rippled through the bridge. A dozen different species expressed amusement in a dozen different ways, chittering, clicking the low rumble of the fourth breath laugh. One ship against the greatest armada ever assembled. Humanity's technology is crude, Velkar reminded them. Their FTL drives are barely a century old. Their weapons still rely on kinetic impact and radiation. They have no energy shielding to speak of. The Compact's assessment placed them at Tier 3 civilization. We are Tier 1. Commander Nath's wings twitched. The assessment was based on intercepted communications and long-range observation. We have never engaged them directly. There is a first time for everything. Velkar turned back to the display. Maintain formation. We will not be delayed by a single ship full of terrified primitives. Send a warning transmission. Tell them to stand aside or be removed. The order went out. The Armada continued forward on the bridge of the human vessel, far smaller than any compact warship. Captain Tors watched the incoming transmission with an expression that might have been pity. Her crew moved around her in silence, each station operating with precision that spoke of endless drills and absolute trust. They're not stopping, her tactical officer said. Tors nodded. Open a channel, all frequencies. Use their language, their most formal dialect. Message ready. Say this, Tors said, and her voice carried no fear at all. You are entering sovereign human territory. You will withdraw within one standard cycle, or you will face the consequences. This is not negotiation. This is not a request. This is a warning delivered in good faith. The transmission shot across the void. Admiral Velkar received it and laughed. Consequences, he repeated to his staff, from a species that still buries its dead in the ground. Armada pressed forward, and the human warship did not move. Commander Nath's anxiety had transformed into something colder as the Armada closed distance to the human vessel. His sensors reported nothing. No power fluctuations, no heat signatures, no radiation bleed. The human ship sat in the black like a hole in reality itself, present, visible, but generating no detectable emissions. This is wrong, Nath said, his voice too quiet for the bridge recording systems. Every ship produces heat, every reactor radiates, even our stealth vessels leave traces. Admiral Velkar dismissed the concern. With a wave of his primary arm, they have powered down, waiting, hopping. We will ignore them. No species powers down. When faced with 12,000 ships, Nath's wings pressed flat against his back. The gesture of pure terror. They are either insane or they know something we do not. The Armada's forward elements reached weapons range. Admiral Velkar ordered 20 destroyers to break formation and surround the human vessel. Standard containment protocol. Surround, demand surrender, board if necessary. The destroyers moved into position. Human ship did nothing. Open a channel. Velkar commanded, tell them they have 60 seconds to power up their engines and flee. The Council's mercy is not infinite. The channel opened. Silence answered. 50 seconds. 40-30 on the human bridge. Captain Torres watched the countdown timer with no visible tension. Her hand rested on the arm of her command chair, fingers tapping a rhythm only she could hear. Shields, she asked. Holding at 0 emission. They still can't see us. Weapons cold and dark. They'll only know what hit them after it's already over. Tour exhaled slowly. Then we wait. Give them every chance to leave. The countdown reached 0. Fire a warning shot across their bow. Admiral Velkar ordered. Full power. Let them feel the heat. The destroyer's main cannon cycled. Energy built in the firing chamber. The shot missed. No, not missed. The human ship was no longer where the shot had been aimed. It had moved, not jumped to FTL. Not accelerated in a predictable arc. It had simply relocated as if space itself had blinked. Report, Velkar demanded. Sir, the human vessel changed position. No acceleration. Curve, no thrust signature. It is now located 7,000 km port side of our formation. The bridge fell into a silence so complete that Velkar heard his own heartbeat clicking through his jaw. Impossible, someone whispered. Commander Nath's sensors were screaming. Now, not with alarms, but with data that made no sense. The human ship was generating a gravitational field, not the massive curve of a planetary body, or the steady pull of a star. Something smaller, something controlled, something impossible. They're bending space around themselves, Nath said, and his voice cracked. Admiral, they're not moving through space, they're moving space around them. That's not Tier 3 technology. That's not even Tier 1. Admiral Velkar's mandibles locked tight. All ships, weapons free, destroy that vessel. 12,000 ships opened fire, and the human warship danced between the raindrops. The first volley of fire passed through empty space. The second volley missed by a wider margin. The third volley struck 3 compact ships whose targeting systems had been confused by the human vessel's impossible trajectory. Admiral Velkar watched his Armada tear itself apart. Cease fire, all ships. Cease fire, the order rippled through the fleet, but momentum carried disaster. Forward, 2 more compact vessels exploded before weapons went cold. Debris scattered across the kill zone. The human ship sat in the center of the destruction, untouched, unharmed. Broadcasting nothing, then it spoke. This is your final warning. The voice was calm, human, female. It carried no anger, no triumph, no emotion at all. Beyond the flat certainty of a recording. Withdraw now or we will begin removing your command structure. Velkar's bridge crew stared at their displays. The human ship had not fired a single shot. It had not deployed fighters or missiles or drones. It had simply moved, and in moving it had turned the compact's own firepower against them, Admiral Commander Nath said. Their transmission originated from a point in space approximately 12 km from our bridge. The ship itself is on the opposite side of the formation. They are broadcasting from multiple locations simultaneously. They have multiple vessels. No one vessel, multiple broadcast points, as if they can project their signal from anywhere within range, as if location means nothing to them. Velkar's tactical mind, honed through 30 years of warfare, finally grasped what his instincts had been screaming. This was not a battle. This was not even a confrontation. This was something else entirely, a display of capability so far beyond the compact's understanding that calling it technology felt wrong. They want us to leave, Velkar said slowly. They could have destroyed our forward destroyers. They chose not to. Why? Commander Nath had no answer. On the human bridge, Captain Torres watched the compact Armada's formation dissolve into confusion. Her tactical officer, a young lieutenant named O'Brien, looked up from his display with a question in his eyes. Captain, why aren't we hitting them? We could take out their flagship in the next pass. Torres shook her head. Because if we destroy their command ship, they'll assume we're conquerors. They'll fight to the last vessel. They'll never stop. Isn't that what we want, to make them afraid? No. Tor stood, walking to the main viewport. The compact Armada spread across the darkness like a glittering wound. We want them to understand. Fear without understanding just becomes rage. But understanding fear, knowing exactly what you're facing and why you can't win, that changes people. The transmission light blinked. The compact was hailing them. On screen, Tor said. Admiral Velkar's image appeared. For the first time, his mandibles showed not confidence but calculation. Human vessel, you have made your point. State your terms. Torres met his gaze through the light years. Withdraw to your side of the border. Do not approach human space again without invitation. That is the only term, and if we refuse, then we stop being gentle. Transmission ended. Admiral Velkar stared at the blank display for a long moment. Then he gave the order that would haunt him for the rest of his life. All ships full assault. Concentrate all firepower on that vessel. Do not stop until it is dust. The Armada surged forward and the human warship stopped playing. The first compact ship died before its crew understood they were under attack. One moment the heavy cruiser Indomitable was preparing to fire. The next, its bridge section simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not vaporized, but removed. With surgical precision, the human warship had passed through the formation, and in its wake, command and control nodes vanished. Admiral Velkar's display went dark in 11 sections. Reports: main communications are down. Secondary networks are compromised. The human vessel is targeting only our flagships and relay vessels. They're not trying to destroy the Armada. They're trying to blind us. The human ship moved again. This time Velkar's sensors tracked it not by its own emissions but by the disturbances it left behind. Gravitational waves, space-time ripples. The signature of a vessel that had learned to treat reality as suggestion rather than law. It's bending gravity. Commander Nath breath. Admiral, that ship is generating a gravitational field powerful enough to warp light. That's why we can't target it. We're not aiming at the ship. We're aiming at where the ship was half a second ago. Then, calculate the distortion, predict its path. We can't. The field is variable. It changes with each movement. By the time our targeting computers account for one configuration, the ship has shifted to another outside the human vessel. Continued its work, it struck the Armada's spine, the line of command. Ships that coordinated the fleet. Movement, each strike was precise, each strike was fatal, and each strike left the surrounding vessels untouched. The Compact's warriors, trained for glorious battle against worthy foes, found themselves fighting a ghost that killed with dispassionate efficiency. On the human bridge, Captain Torres watched the tactical display with the cold focus of a surgeon. Her crew moved in perfect synchronization, weapons, navigation, gravitational control, all operating at 15% capacity. Status Tour said 43 command ships eliminated. O'Brien reported their formation is breaking apart. Local commanders are trying to coordinate, but without their flag networks, they're falling back on individual initiative. It's chaos. Tor nodded. Enough. Signal the fleet. The fleet, open a channel to the compact ships, all frequencies, and activate the passive arrays on the edge of the star system, hidden in the corona of the local sun. The rest of humanity's response force waited. Not 12,000 ships, not even 1,040 vessels, each identical to the one cutting through the compact Armada. Their passive sensors had been watching the entire engagement, recording, analyzing, learning. Now on Admiral Velkar's displays, 40 new contacts bloomed into existence, not moving, not attacking, just present, just watching. The message was unmistakable. You are fighting one ship, we have 40 more. Do you want to continue? Admiral Velkar's mandibles opened wide, not in aggression, but in the Rathan gesture of absolute surrender. All ships, he said, his voice hollow. Full retreat. Emergency burn to FTL. Coordinates: do not engage, do not return fire, retreat. The Armada broke, and the human warship let them go. Retreat was not orderly. It was not dignified. It was 12,000 ships running for their lives, colliding with each other in their desperation to escape, abandoning damaged vessels and wounded crews because stopping meant death. Admiral Velkar watched from his flagship's bridge as his life's work dissolved into cowardice and terror. They're not pursuing, Commander Nath said. His wings hung limp. The VTH had no gesture for what he was feeling. Defeat so completed transcended shame. The human ship has returned to its original position. The others haven't moved from the star's corona. Velkar said nothing. His tactical display showed the Armada's casualties. 47 command ships destroyed, 92 support vessels damaged in the chaos of the retreat, 3,000 casualties. And the humans had not fired a single weapon, not one. They did this with maneuvering, Velkar whispered. They turned our own fire against us. They used gravity as a weapon. They moved through our formation like we were standing still. Admiral, we need to debrief. The Council will demand answers. The Council will demand heads. Velkar's mandibles clicked with bitter laughter. And they will have mine. But I will give them something more valuable than my shame. I will give them the truth. Armada limped into FTL. Behind them, the human warship remained stationary, watching, waiting until the last compact vessel had disappeared from sensors. Then Captain Tor opened a channel to Earth mission accomplished, they've retreated, but they'll be back, not to fight to talk. We made sure of that on Earth, the leaders of humanity's defense council exchanged confused glances. How can you be certain? The Secretary General asked. Torres looked at her display at the fleeing Armada, at the data her sensors had collected, at the terrified transmissions still echoing through compact frequencies. Because I showed them exactly what we are, she said. Not monsters, not conquerors, not victims, just people who refuse to lose. And when a species that's never lost a war meets people who refuse to lose, something breaks inside them. They have to understand why. They have to know, and that need, that desperate, terrified need to understand, will drag them back to the negotiating table. She was right. 3 weeks later, the Compact Council requested diplomatic contact. The debriefing chamber on Rathen Prime had been designed to intimidate. Towering ceilings, cold stone lighting that left shadows in every corner. Admiral Velkar had sat through 100 debriefings here, always as the accuser, never as the accused. Now he stood before the Compact Council. 12 species, 43 representatives, all of them staring at him with expressions ranging from contempt to terror. Human vessel, said Council Chair Vorik, of the Horth Dominion, violated every known principle of space combat. Explain how this is possible. Velkar had prepared for this question. He had spent 3 weeks going over sensor data, crew testimony, and tactical analysis. He had reached conclusions that kept him awake at night. The humans have mastered gravitational manipulation, he said, not as a weapon, not as a drive system, as a fundamental extension of their awareness. Their ship bends space around itself as naturally as we breathe. They do not move through the void. The void moves around them. Impossible. Hist. Representative Thal Matriarchy. Gravitational manipulation at that scale requires energy outputs equivalent to a small star. No ship can generate that much power. Their ship generated no heat. Veeler agreed. No radiation, no detectable emissions of any kind, which means they are not generating the gravity field. They are tapping into it, using existing gravitational wells as their power source. The ship is not a weapon, it is a key that unlocks the universe's own mechanisms. Silence fell across the chamber. Council Chair Vorik leaned forward. You are suggesting that humanity has achieved a level of technology that makes our own look like children playing with rocks. I am not suggesting, Council Chair. I am reporting. Mandibles tightened, but technology was not the deciding factor. The humans could have destroyed our entire armada. They chose not to. They could have pursued our retreat and eliminated our command structure. They chose not to. They could have demanded unconditional surrender. They chose not to. Then what did they choose? Representative Thal demanded. Velkar met her gaze. They chose to teach. Every movement their ship made was a lesson. Every destruction of a command vessel was a demonstration. They showed us exactly what they were capable of, and then they stopped. They wanted us to understand. Understand what? That we are not their enemy, Velkar said, but we could be, and if we choose that path, there is nothing we can do to stop them. The council erupted into chaos. Accusations flew. Demands for execution. Demands for further investigation. Demands for an immediate second strike with double the Vorse. Through it all, Admiral Velkar stood in silence, watching his species leaders argue about a war they had already lost. When the noise finally subsided, Council Chair Vorik asked the question no one else had thought to ask: what do they want? Velkar had no answer, but 3 days later the answer arrived in the form of a single human diplomat requesting an audience with the Compact Council. No guards, no warships, no weapons, just a woman in simple clothing carrying a briefcase, walking into the heart of alien power with the calm confidence of someone who had never considered the possibility of fear. Her name was Ambassador Sorin Vess. She was 52 years old, had negotiated 17 trade agreements between hostile human nations, and had once talked a nuclear-armed separatist movement into surrendering by asking them what they wanted for their children. The Compact Council had never met anyone like her. She walked into the chamber alone, the towering ceilings, the cold stone, the strategic shadows. None of it seemed to affect her. She found the chair reserved for her, pulled it closer to the council table, and sat down without waiting for permission. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. Her voice was not loud. It did not need to be. The acoustics of the chamber carried every word to every representative. "I am here to discuss a trade agreement." Representative Thaw's mandibles gaped. "Trade? After your warship destroyed 47 of our vessels?" Ambassador Voss tilted her head. "Vessels destroyed each other. Our ship simply moved out of the way, but I understand your anger, and I apologize for the loss of life. However, I would point out that you entered our territory without permission, refused 3 separate warnings to withdraw, and opened fire on a vessel that had not attacked you. You killed 3,000 of our crew. Your targeting computers killed your own crew when they locked onto a ship that was no longer where you thought it was." Ambassador Voss's expression did not change. "We did not fire a single shot. Not one. Check your sensor logs." The council members exchanged glances. They had checked. The logs confirmed everything. She said, "Why are you here?" Council Chair Vorik asked. "Because you need something from us, and we need something from you, Ambassador." Voss opened her briefcase and removed a single sheet of paper. "The Compact controls approximately 43% of known space. Your trade network spanned 200 light years. Your combined economy dwarfs ours, and what could we possibly need from humanity?" Ambassador Voss smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was not a cold smile. It was the smile of someone who had already calculated every possible outcome and found only one acceptable. "Gravity technology," she said. "You saw what our ship could do. You know what that technology means for transportation, construction, energy, production, defense. The Compact has been trying to crack gravitational manipulation for 400 years. We succeeded 60 years ago. We are willing to share." The chamber erupted again. Council Chair Vorik slammed a massive fist against the table. Silence. The noise died. "Why?" Vorik asked. "Why would you share your greatest advantage?" Ambassador Voss folded her hands on the table. "Because we have seen what happens when species reach for the stars alone. The conquest, the fear, the endless arms races. Humanity wants partners, not subjects. We want trade, not tribute. We want to build something together, not tear each other apart. And if we refuse, then we go back to our space, and you go back to yours. And in 50 years, when you have finally reverse-engineered our technology from the sensor data you collected. You will come back and the cycle will continue. Ambassador Voss's eyes moved across the council members, meeting each gaze in turn. But if you accept, we can break the cycle right now, today, with a single signature. Council Chair Vorex stared at the paper. What are your terms? Equal trade, free passage for civilian vessels, joint research initiatives, and one more thing. Ambassador Voss paused. Admiral Velkar, we want his testimony, not for punishment, for understanding. We want him to teach our military what he learned from watching us fight, because the next time someone threatens humanity, we want to make sure they understand what we are before they fire the first shot. The request hung in the air. Representative Thal whispered. Madness. Ambassador Voss heard her. No, she said. It's hope, and hope. Representative Thal is the most dangerous weapon in the universe, because hope is the only thing that has ever made humanity dangerous, not our technology, not our weapons, our refusal to accept that the universe has to be cruel. She stood. I will wait for your decision. Take all the time you need. She walked out of the chamber, leaving the Compact Council alone with their fear, their pride in the paper that could change everything. They accepted, not immediately, not gracefully. The Compact Council debated for 3 standard weeks. Factions formed and fractured. Threats were made. Alliances shifted. In the end, fear of humanity's military power lost a hope for humanity's economic potential. Admiral Velkar gave his testimony. He spoke for 8 hours, answering every question, correcting every misconception, forcing the Compact's military leadership to confront the truth they had been avoiding. The truth was this: humanity had not built their warship to win wars, they had built it to prevent them. The gravitational manipulation technology was not a weapon, it was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not be threatened, would not be intimidated, would not be conquered. But neither would they conquer, neither would they intimidate, neither would they threaten. They had built the ship to be impossible to ignore and impossible to fight, and then they had sent it alone to face the greatest armada in galactic history, because they knew something the Compact had never learned. Every other species in the galaxy had reached for the stars, carrying the weight of their worst instincts: fear of the unknown, suspicion of the different, the belief that resources were finite and must be fought over. They had built empires on the assumption that the universe was a battlefield. Humanity reached for the stars carrying something else, their worst instincts. Yes, they were not saints, but also their best, their curiosity, their stubborn hope, their absolute refusal to believe that violence was the only answer. When the Compact Armada appeared at their doorstep, humanity had 2 choices: build weapons of destruction and risk becoming what they hated, or build something so far beyond destruction that no one would dare test it. They chose the third option, and it worked. 6 months after the battle, Ambassador Soren Voss stood on the bridge of the human warship that had shattered the Armada's confidence. Captain Tor stood beside her, watching as Compact engineers toured the vessel's external hull with permission, with guides, with every safety protocol active. They still don't understand, Tor said. They think the ship is the key. It is, Voss replied, just not the way they think. Ta looked at her. What Do you mean, Voss gestured to the viewport, every species in the compact has asked the same question, how did we build this? What breakthrough allowed us to manipulate gravity? They're searching for a technological answer, but the real answer is sitting in your crew. Tor frowned. My crew? Your crew didn't break. When 12,000 ships appeared on their sensors, they didn't panic, they didn't beg for mercy, they trusted their training, their ship, and each other. And that trust, that absolute faith that they could face anything and survive, that's what allowed you to build this vessel. The technology came from that mindset, not the other way around. Compact engineers had finished their inspection. They were signaling gratitude, confusion, and something that looked like the beginning of respect. They're afraid of us, Voss said, but fear is just the beginning. If we do this right, fear becomes curiosity. Curiosity becomes understanding. Understanding becomes cooperation, and cooperation becomes something the galaxy has never seen, a community. Taurus said, better than that. Voss smiled, the warm smile she had saved for the end of every successful negotiation. Family, flawed, messy, prone to arguing, but family nonetheless. The human warship's engines powered up, not for combat, for travel, for exploration, for the long journey home. Behind them, the Compact Council began drafting the first interstellar trade agreement in galactic history, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, the human warship's gravitational field rippled, not as a weapon, not as a threat, but as a promise. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. End.